Yo, what's up, y'all? It's Unk. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it happens to be for you. Here today to bring you another clip on how to cop. I like to give people tips and tricks on how to cop manual. Today isn't going to be about anything specific, but I am going to run down the 5 best sites for you to try to focus on when it comes to buying sneakers. Now, not all sites are created equal. Not everybody cares about pop protection. And some sites are just impossible to get to. Some sites are better than others. So that's what we're going to get to in this video. We're going to talk about where to spend your resources, where to spend your time, and how not to get distracted by watching and trying to get every single site that you can out there. After this, I am going to do the 5 worst sites to get to. I'm still trying to compile that list to figure out who's going to be the bottom of the barrel and try to be fair. But this is what works for me as far as sites that I try to focus on. First and foremost, should come as absolutely no surprise to anyone, is JD Sports and Finish Line. I put out a full guide on them a week or two ago, a couple of weeks ago, about why I think they are the best and what makes them the best. And first and foremost, it's their exclusive access program. You spend a few bucks with them, you get some points, you get in-store and shipping access. For the most part, with big releases, they give 2 chances to cop manually. They give you an opportunity to cop in-store, which means you select one of your 3 locals, you go in-store, you pick them up, boom, done with your day. Or they also have a ship-to-me option, a shipping option to where you actually get the pairs in hand. They charge a little bit for shipping, but you don't have to leave the house. So it's really nice once you spend some money with them, and they really do the best job of anybody out there to making sure that bots aren't getting these by allocating a huge amount of their stock to exclusive access. The other thing is their queue system. It's pretty good. It may take a while to get through. It may be frustrating, but they also do a really, really good job in canceling anything that looks like a bot order and canceling anything that looks like it's going to the same address. So that means there's more pairs to go around for manual users. Another thing that makes them top notch is they're huge. They're absolutely huge. They get more allocation than any of the boutiques out there. So just gonna make it up random numbers, for the Jordan 4 bread, they may have had 25,000 pairs allocated to them. I'm just making that number up. I have no idea what it is. Whereas one of your boutiques may have had 500, so you got a much bigger chance to get with them because of, 1, the allocations that they get. They have a huge account. They get a lot of pairs. And 2, because of the way they handle their queue system, the way they review orders, the way they cancel anything that looks suspicious to them. And 3, the most important, because of their exclusive access. That is where I spend all of my attention. That's my number 1 priority. That's my go-to. That's where I get a lot of my sneakers from, GRs anyway. Second, this one jumped up the list after the Bread 4 release, Snipes. Snipes has always been pretty good as far as their queue system goes. I've had a lot of success with them in the past, but I think over the course of the past year, maybe a little more, they really started making some massive improvements and really, really dialing it up. I think it was the Lost and Founds, where they actually introduced a second queue system to where you'd sit through the queue, then you'd have to sit through another queue. But it's a beautiful thing. It really, really is. It's really, really long. It takes time to get through. I think during the Bread 4 drop, there was people that were still hitting that at 2 p.m., 4 hours after the drop. I don't know what they do on the back end. I don't know what it says, what they're doing to know who's a bot and who's not, but they are doing a really, really good job of making sure that real users get through their queue and real people are able to score their pairs. I'm sure some bots get through, no question, but there was people that were 30 to 40,000 in line on the Bread 4s and still got pairs. Still got through. I know they didn't get that. I don't think they got that many pairs allocated to them, but they really do a great job. So like I said, it's going to take some time. You're going to have to get in that queue. Usually the queue jumps up about 30 minutes before the actual release. I want you to be careful. Make sure you're entering the right details before the drop with your email address, because if that email address doesn't match the one you put in at shipping, you're not going to be able to get your shoes. So like I said, this is going to take some time. It's not going to be a quick. It's going to be longer than JD and Finish Line, but definitely it's a really, really great way to go about getting your shoes. Third in line, I know I'm going to ruffle some feathers with this, but sneakers. The Nike app, they do a really good job with bot protection. I know nobody wants to hear this because they never get their pairs, but you got to understand the supply and demand. Sneakers app probably gets more traffic and more entries than every other site out there combined. But what they do with a 10-minute Dan draw is actually review every single one of those applications and make sure that they're trying anyway to weed out all the bots. Do bots hit? Yes. Are bots having less success today than they did over the course of the past year or two? Absolutely. Not only that, but Nike also does special release drops where they do the scratchers, where they do shock drops, where they do exclusive access, where they do cam draws. You know, with the scratchers and the cam draws, there's not a bot out there that can support it. And I know everybody gets frustrated. They did with the Powerpuff Girls because there are some technical issues. But here's the thing. I respect them for trying. They're trying. They're trying to do something new. They're trying to innovate with the way they get these pairs out to people. And honestly, I think they do a great job with it. They do two different kinds of draws for the most part. They do the Leo draws, which is just 2 minutes. Take as many people in as you can. Get the winners out there. And then there's a Dan draw where they're a little more thoughtful about entries and reviewing everything. One thing I do want to point out about sneakers draws, unless it's what they call a flow draw, speed doesn't matter. So I see a lot of people saying, I was there right at 10 o'clock, 7 o'clock Pacific, and I entered right away and I still didn't get them. That's got nothing to do with it. Whether it's a 2-minute Leo draw or a 10-minute Dan draw, what they do is they take all the entries they can in that amount of time. They review them, try to squash out any of the bots, and then everybody gets assigned a random number. If your number comes up and your size is available, you get charged automatically. That's the way it works. Speed does not matter. Obviously, with the Leo draw, you can tell it says available at 10 a.m. versus draw opens at 10 a.m. how fast you need to be, because with those Leo draws, you only got 2 minutes to get entries in. With the Dan draws, you got 10 minutes to get entries in. But again, speed does not matter. As long as you're in while the draw is still open, you have just as good a chance as somebody who got in right away at 10 o'clock. It really doesn't matter. But like I said, I think Nike does a great job with bot protection, but you got to understand they are the most attacked source out there. They're taking on more than anybody else, and they're doing a good job innovating and weeding out bots. I am working on another guide for just understanding the sneakers app, all the different kinds of draws they do, maybe some things that you can do to help your odds a little bit, but keep an ear out for that. After that, number 4 on the list is Hibbit. Hibbit does a good job as well. Hibbit, if you have Apple Pay, I will put that precursor out there, because what Hibbit does is they have Apple Pay right on the main screen. You don't have to add to cart. You don't have to go through a checkout. If you have Apple Pay, you can do it right there on the spot. And Hibbit's pretty big. You know, they get a good number of allocations. I believe they're one of the Nike partnered stores. Don't quote me on that though, but they get a good number of pairs. They do raffles for in-store pairs. So if you live near one of them, you can actually go ahead and get it picked up. But the reason I like them is because of the way they put out their pairs on release day. So they have a countdown going. You can see it on the release tab. They have the countdown going, and you got to get in there right at 10 o'clock. Make sure you refresh and get it on there. And what you do is you select the size you want and you hit Apple Pay right underneath that. So no add to cart, there's less steps. There are 1 or 2 bots that do a good job. They do an okay job, sorry. They access the site and they do an okay job with it. But if you have Apple Pay and you're fast, you can absolutely get in there on Hibbit. It's a little bit better than even some of the Shopify sites that use Apple Pay, because for the most part, you got to add to cart and it takes a little bit more time. But if you have Apple Pay and you got fast internet, you can do pretty well on Hibbit. So definitely check them out. I recommend looking at their release calendar, seeing what you want to go for. Also, they do release pretty much every day of the week, and it's the same process. I would recommend going for a not really sought after release and just practicing. Practice Hibbit, practice knowing where your size is going to be, practice hitting that Apple Pay button. You don't have to pay, you don't have to pay. Don't go all the way through it, but just practice, get used to the touch flow, get used to where you got to touch, where you got to swipe, where you got to click. After that, number 5 on my list, no surprise to anybody, I'm going to say Undefeated. Again, Undefeated, I think is a great source out there for boutiques, because one, they have the absolute golden ticket account for everybody. They get virtually every shoe that releases. They get every Nike, all the retros, all the collabs. For the most part, all the collabs. Some collabs stay specific to the partners themselves. But they got an SB Dunk account. They get virtually everything. They get the Travis Scotts. They get all the retros, they get SBs, they get all the Yeezys. They just dropped the Fear of Gods. I think that was not too long ago today. I think it was actually the Fear of Gods. I know I saw that on there. They get ASICS collabs, they get New Balance collabs, they get just about everything. Any hype shoe that comes out, anything you really want to go after, you can count on Undefeated getting it. And that's a big reason why I put them on this list. The second reason I put them on this list is because of the way they handle it, the way they take care of bots. I put the full video out on them. I'll put a link to it at the end of this video, so definitely make sure you check out the Undefeated guide. But Undefeated, again, does a great job reviewing orders and making sure bots don't check out. They manually review everything and cancel bot orders and put them back in rotation. And if you have Apple Pay, you can absolutely get a pair from Undefeated. Like I said, I'm putting the link at the end of this video. Check out for the full guide and method on how to use Apple Pay on Undefeated. But they do a great job. A lot of times their drops will drag on for an hour just trying to get the pairs and then making sure that pairs get in hands of people that actually want them and not bots. If you have monitors, you can watch it. You can see their restock, because they're canceling everything and putting it back out there. Third, they use the EQL system for raffles. For really, really big stuff, they use EQL for raffles. And EQL, I'm not 100% going to say that they're the greatest thing out there, but they're better than most of the other raffles that are out there. What EQL does is basically assign you a score, and a score is individual per site. And every time you take an L, it bumps your score up a little bit. It bumps your score up to the point where, you know, the higher your score, the better your odds are of taking a dub on the next release. So the EQL is pretty revolutionary. It's also relatively new. I want to say it's maybe 2 years old. So they're still probably working out some kinks, and I'm not ready to, to give them a full-on stamp of approval. I've hit one raffle on them. But yeah, Undefeated, they're a really, really, really good resource, a great place to go. They put out dope products as far as their signature line stuff, but they have an absolute top-notch account that gets almost every sneaker out there. They do great job reviewing bot orders and canceling. Do things get through? Absolutely, no question. But they do a good job, and they try. That's the one thing I ask, is that somebody just tries. And then 3, their raffle system. They do a pretty good job with the EQL. So if you haven't checked them out, watch the guide at the end of this video. The JD and Finish Line, I'll put a link to that as well. Definitely make sure that. But these are the 5 stores that I really recommend. I'm not saying you shouldn't look at other stores and try to learn, because, maybe somebody could teach me some new tricks. But when I'm going for a shoe, these are the stores that I'm putting my attention on. These are the ones that I'm really going after. I don't really look at anything else. DSG, Dick's Sporting Goods, yeah, they do a pretty good job with their in-store raffles, but I don't really have one near me. So, I got to drive over an hour to get to one. So that really doesn't work out for me, but I'll definitely give them an honorable mention. Dick's, with their in-store wristbands and the way they do it, is a pretty good job. Their queue system is okay too. They'll get my honorable mention. I'll give them that for sure. But that's about it. So definitely make sure you're looking at these sites. Practice during dead drops that nobody really wants. You can understand, you can learn, and that way you're stoked and ready to go, locked and loaded for a real drop that you do want. But that's about it for today. Those are the 5 stores that I recommend. I am going to work on putting together some more of these. Definitely check out the link videos, and please drop me a sub. I really appreciate it. Drop a like on this video if it's you're into it, and helps more people get some shoes. And definitely stay on the lookout for the 5 worst sites coming soon. Peace.